State and her MA and MFA from the University of Iowa. She moved to New York City, where she taught at the Benjamin Franklin School in Brooklyn, at the 92nd Street Y School in New York, and the School for International Studies in Brooklyn, where she created their first advanced art class. While in New York, she also served as an assistant visiting professor at Pratt Institute, where she worked with both undergraduate and graduate students in art education. Ms. Roberts has shown her own work in Connecticut, New York State, Vermont, Iowa, Tennessee, New York City, and here in Boston at the Harvest Co-op in Jamaica Plain, Lynn Arts, a not-for-profit gallery in Lynn, where one of her paintings won Best in Show last year, at the Cambridge Artists Association, at the Lincoln Gallery, and currently at Carroll and Sons Gallery in Boston. Ms. Roberts came to Beaver in 2006, and we knew immediately that she was an extraordinary classroom teacher. This week marks the 88th anniversary of the founding of Beaver, and throughout our history, from Beatrice Van Ness in the 20s to Carl Taberry in the 50s and 60s, Beaver has been proud to have visual arts teachers who are both accomplished practicing artists and are known by students and peers as among the best teachers in the building. Teachers still revered by alums in their 80s, 60s, and 40s. Ms. Roberts quickly became one of our lead teachers, and in that capacity has shared with her colleagues her expertise in the area of assessment, and faculty in all departments, and all students in all subject areas have benefited from her work in that area and from her insight into all areas of teaching. So as we mark the 88th anniversary of our founding, please welcome another in a line of extraordinary art teachers at Beaver, our cum laude speaker, Rebecca Roberts.
About a movie that came out when I was in high school before most of you were born. It was called Dead Poets Society. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's the story of a teacher played by Robin Williams, working at a boarding school in the 1950s, who challenges his students to think differently, to question authority, and to live every day to the fullest. He teaches them the phrase, carpe diem, which means seize the day in Latin. They are inspired by his unusual teaching methods and adopt carpe diem as their motto as they go on wild and crazy adventures, like reading poetry in the woods at night. An unfortunate consequence of this movie for my classmates and I was that every adult who got the chance to address high school students in the early 90s used the phrase carpe diem as the theme for their speech. It was carpe diem this and carpe diem that, carpe diem over and over again. What had seemed like an inspirational message at first quickly became an annoying and fruitless strategy adults used to motivate teenagers. These adults wanted us to take advantage of every opportunity. I could buy into that, but after a while, it became exhausting to think of living this way all the time. Do it now. Make it your best. Now. Today. We were supposed to be passionate all the time, set goals, and strive to achieve our dreams then and there. Although I didn't know exactly what my dream was, I knew it involved making art as often as possible. I did my best to live this way for a while, carpe dieming a path all the way to graduate school, where I met a wonderfully down-to-earth professor named Jane Kent. In a conversation we had about what I wanted to do with my life, she said to me, "You know what, Rebecca? It's a really long life, and you've got a lot of years to fill up." I will never forget how I felt when I heard this, especially coming from a successful New York City artist. Could she possibly have meant I didn't need to know exactly what I wanted to do, or exactly what my big dream was? Did she mean I didn't have to rush to figure it all out? It was like I exhaled for the first time in years. I felt reassured that the path I was on, which at the time had no particular destination in mind, might just be the right one for me right then. It felt like the opposite of seizing the day, and it reminded me of the process of making art in the studio. When I start painting, I have a rough idea of where I'm headed, but the path changes along the way, and it rarely ends up a teacher. I moved to New York City, I was broke, and I needed a steady job. I was an artist, and working with kids came easily to me, so I impulsively went to a job fair early one Saturday morning, half asleep and dressed far too casually in a pink leather jacket, hoping to learn a little bit about becoming a teacher. 2 hours later, I'd had 6 interviews, and one desperate principal offered me a job, which I took. I spent weeks carefully preparing to teach my first class, a bilingual kindergarten. And like any naive, overachieving white girl from the suburbs, I assumed that bilingual kindergartners would be bilingual, that they would speak 2 languages. They entered the classroom in their new and adorable uniforms and sat politely and quietly at the tables as I babbled on and on about how excited I was to see them and what we were going to do on that first day. Finally, after what was probably way too long, I paused to ask the class a question. They sat in silence, smiling at me. And I shuddered to think of how many minutes it took me to realize that these students did not speak a word of English. Not speaking a word of Spanish, I motioned for them to sit in a circle on the floor. I grabbed paper and crayons and handed them out. I drew a circle on my paper, pointed to it, and said, "Circle." One generous child smiled at me and said, "Circolo." I said, "Circolo." We all said, "Circolo," and drew circles on our papers. Smiling and laughing, we continued drawing shapes and sharing words for the rest of the class. By New Year's, I was amazed to find that my little kindergartners were speaking perfect English, and I had become a teacher. I had watched the Twin Towers fall out of the sky from my classroom window, learned to navigate the politics of the New York City Board of Education, and managed groups of 36 kids every 45 minutes